Now we're going to move on to our, honestly, guys, it's just our opinion, 10th place Eels preview for 2024. So they've gained basically no one, just Morgan Harper from the Sea Eagles and Kelma Tuliagi from the Sea Eagles. Why do the Eels and the Sea Eagles constantly buy each other players? But they've lost Jake Arthur, Wanga Blake, Nathan Brown, Andrew Davey, Josh Hodgson, Jack Murchie, Mitch Rain. Bunch of retirements in there, obviously. They re-signed Dejan Arce, Dylan Brown, Bryce Cartwright. Don't know why they re-signed him. Matt Dury, Wormu Grieg, Brendan Hands, Jermaine Hopgood, Mitchell Moses, Will Panisi, Sean Russell, Bailey Simonson, and Micah Sevo. Now, out of that, I would say Micah Sevo, Mitchell Moses, they're the ones you really, really want to keep. Dylan Brown signed to 2031.
It's a long contract.
Yeah, these long contracts are just beyond ridiculous, to be honest.
And I mean, they're looking for him to get back on track after he was absent. I think it was from rounds 15 to 23 last year with that NRL breach notice.
Yeah.
And you also went into last year with that real cloud over Mitchell Moses. Was he going to re-sign or not? And that seemed to be a real distraction for them going in last year. And I think that really affected them as the season went on. They didn't seem to recover from that.
Yeah, so they had one of the hardest draws last year, especially the opening, and this year they've got the 11th hardest draw. So they play top 8 teams 12 times, top 4 7, bottom 9 12, and bottom 4 6. But who they play twice, this is where it gets tough. They've got Broncos, Bulldogs, Sea Eagles, Storm, Panthers, Rabbitohs, Roosters, Tigers. So Broncos, Storm, Panthers, and Roosters in there playing twice for the Eels.
Not easy, John.
Yeah, and the start of the season is a little bit easy, which is good. You know, so they can start well. Last year they didn't start well, if I remember correctly, because of a bunch of drama.
Issue.
So they only faced 2 of the top 8 teams in the first few rounds, but it just starts getting worse and worse and worse from there. And their run home is awful. Like it is just atrocious. If we continue on with the theme of last year. But like you got to check their run home. It's just a nightmare, and that could be the deciding factor in their finish. So
they're
going to be playing in their run home. Say from round 19, they've got to play the Titans. Yeah, what do you do? They've got to play the Storm. They've got to play the Warriors in New Zealand. They've got to play the Panthers. They've got to play the Roosters. Then they've got to play the Broncos. And they finish up the season with the Dragons and the Tigers. But that going through...
that round 19 to the third last round.
Yeah. So Storm, Warriors, Panthers, Roosters, Broncos, that could decide their position.
Well, they want to get wins on the board in the early part of the season, John, because they might be struggling towards the back end with that run home.
Exactly.
I can run you through a 17 for the Eels, John. So Clint Gutherson at fullback, Micah Sevo and Will Penasini in the centres. Sorry, I'll do that again. Micah Sevo and Bailey Simonson on the wings, I should say. Will Penasini and Sean Russell in the centres. Dylan Brown and Mitch Moses in the halves, of course. Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo are the front rowers. Brendan Hands coming in at hooker, John, in place of the retired Josh Hodgson.
Yep.
Ryan Madison and Sean Lane in the back row. Jermaine Hopgood is the lock forward. And the bench, Joe Offahengawi, Bryce Cartwright, your friend, Bryce Cartwright, John.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You don't seem to be a big fan.
No, he's average at best. Again, I don't know when average became an insult, but he's average at best.
Wiramu, Greg, and Kelma Tuilagi are the other bench players, John.
Yeah, they got, actually, with their draw, they've got 3 5-day turnarounds and 6 6-day turnarounds as well. So they've got quite a lot of short turnarounds in there. Like with well, I reckon that what you just read out is one of the best teams in the NRL on paper. They should always achieve more, and I think that last year their draw at the beginning of the year was terrible, and they never got over it because of off-field dramas, Mitch Moses not signing, so on and so forth. Their first 6 games this year, we just talked about their last games. Their first 6 games is Bulldogs at home, then a difficult one with Panthers away, then Sea Eagles at home, Tigers at home, Raiders away, and Cowboys at home. So only one super difficult one in there, the Panthers, and then all the rest are middle of the road. Will really show you where the Eels sit. This is Brad Arthur's 11th year in charge. I couldn't believe it when I saw this. He's just been around forever. 53% win percentage overall for Brad Arthur. This not including his 2012 stint as an interim coach.
Yeah.
In that time, he's had 1 wooden spoon, 5 finals appearances, and 1 grand final appearance. So basically, not more than half, slightly less than half appearances in the finals 50% appearance in the finals in his first 10 years, and this is his 11th year.
Okay.
Brad Arthur kind of seems untouchable. He goes through these periods where his job is in danger. In the past 10 years, he's gone through these periods where his job is in danger, and then the Eels next year just smash it, make a grand final.
Basically, the 2022 grand final appearance brought him a free year last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Free of accountability last year, but now the heat will be back on him if they have a struggling season.
And the players love him, so if they have a struggling season this year, I guarantee you then next year they're going to make a grand final because they seem to play to save his job. It's been a couple of times. There was a year in his tenure where they got pinged for the salary cap from Ricky Stewart's time, so they lost points at the beginning of the season. But yeah, 1 wooden spoon in that year. That was right at the beginning. Look, they're kind of a hard call. They were thereabouts the whole of last year, even though they did suffer it sometimes. I've got them finishing 7th. I actually, but they got bumped up because I had them finishing 8th, but I got them finishing 7th when I took the Cowboys out of contention.
I'll just run you through a few injury concerns they've got, and then I'll give my prediction as well. So, yeah, Warimu Greg has a foot injury, but he should be all right, John. He shouldn't miss any football. Clint Gutherson's battling a bit of a knee problem, but he should be right to go for round 1. Dejan Arce, a finger injury, but same deal. Should be right for round 1. Makahesi Makatoa has a pec injury, but we're expecting he won't miss any footy, John. Junior Paulo's got a bit of a toe issue, John, but again, round 1 should be back. And a couple of players who are going to be sitting out the whole season, John, with ACL injuries. Arthur Miller-Stephen and Richard Panasini as well, John.
Gone for the season. Well, they weren't in their top 17 anyway, first 17.
Yeah, they weren't, no. But,
sad for them,
it takes away a bit of their depth anyway. Yeah, John, I'm actually, I've got it exactly the same as you. I've got them 7th. I think they'll return to the finals. As I said before, going into that last season with that Mitch Moses contract distraction, and that Dylan Brown breach notice, how he was missing for 8 games late last season. I think those distractions in the halves really contributed to them having a poor season last year. So, I think they'll be back in the 8, John. I've got them 7th, and that should be enough to keep Brad Arthur in his job for a bit longer, John.
So that's honestly, guys, it's just our opinion daily double for the 11th and 10th place. Next week will be 9th. Ooh, we're almost at the top 8. Who's going to drop out of the top 8?